Sense. Honorable Mikey Romero, are you a senior citizen? You're not, right? So you only have 5 minutes, okay? Klaro to, 5 minutes ka lang.
Baka I need that. So anyway, maraming
Honorable
salamat.
Mikey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay. I just have 2 issues to settle in this committee. The first one being a question to Transco. What led to the transfer of Transco to NGCP?
Good afternoon, Mr.
Please
Chair.
reply to the question of Honorable Marcoleta.
Mr. Chair,
Honorable
if I may
Mikey
be
Romero.
allowed to answer. Mr. Chair, it is provided in the EPIRA that the asset, the transmission asset, will be given to a private concessionaire. Nasa EPIRA po yun.
So very clear sa EPIRA na we need to bid this transmission grid, no? Very clear yan. So sino ang nagpabid nito?
Government po ang nagpabid
No,
ng
which agency?
through PISAM po.
Yes, no. So can we I just want to understand yung bidding process at that time, which is 2007. And maybe I can ask Pisam if you can go through or walk us through what happened.
Mr. Chair.
What is the basis also for giving that concession to NGCP or the Monte Oro Consortium at that time?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Congressman.
Please reply.
With regards to the question on the privatization, this is with regards also to the mandate of PISAM to privatize the assets of Napocor, which at that time included also the transmission business. The privatization plan was approved by the JCPC, the JCEC now, and as proposed also to the President at that time, the President of the Republic at that time. So the privatization of the transmission business went through a series of failed biddings, 3 in fact, and finally PISAM was able to privatize through open and competitive bidding the transmission business with 2 participants in the form of Monte Oro, Grid Resources, and San Miguel Corporation, Mr. Chair. Now, as to the bidding parameters, it's always a competitive bidding subject to specific qualifications on the financial and technical qualifications as set by PISAM at that time, Mr. Chair. If I remember, it also followed the qualifications as required by EPIRA that the technical expertise of the potential bidder must be able to be comparable to us, the transmission business in the Philippines, Mr. Chair.
So who are the technical expertise partner of these 2 consortiums?
Mr. Chair, for San Miguel, I'm aware that it was Tenaga Nacional. I think it's a Malaysian company. And for Monte Oro, it's State Grid of China, Mr. Chair.
So at that time, no Filipino company has that technical capability. Is that correct?
The expertise in the transmission business, as specifically stated by EPIRA, no, Mr. Chair, because the expertise in the transmission business was in the form of Transco, and it's not being privatized. It's the concessionaire or the future operator of the transmission business.
So
is
that's why in the terms of reference of your bidding, you required a technical expertise coming from another country. Is that correct?
Based on the, Mr. Chair, based on the requirements, Mr. Chair, the natural technical experts would be coming outside of the country, Mr. Chair.
So did they violate at this point in time and the terms of reference that you have, did NGCP violate any of your bidding procedures at the time?
At that time. Mr. Chair, no. The proof is that we entered into a concession agreement with them. And sorry, I'll step back, Mr. Chair. Now, once we go through a competitive bidding process, there's the bidding process itself, then a post-qualification, wherein we post-qualify the winning bidder based on their financial and technical. And the proof now is now that we actually have an existing concession agreement with NGCP, and which is a result of my assumption that they passed the financial and technical qualifications at that time, Mr. Chair.
Yes, no. So this was 2007, and up to now, NGCP was proclaimed the winning bidder by 3 Republic Acts. Republic Act 9136, the Imperial Law, which according to Transco, allowed them to allowed the bidding process. Of course, the 9184, which the procurement law, which allowed technical partners such as Chinese or Malaysia, no, to be their partners, and the NGC franchise, or the Republic Act 9511, which granted the NGCP's franchise. Now, I'm just curious if which of these laws did we violate, or did NGCP violate?
Please reply.
For at least for on the PISAM side of the issue, Mr. Chair, we have the concession agreement, and we try to continue to implement the concession agreement despite certain non-compliances that we found, and that's why we have actually an arbitration proceedings with NGCP.
So very clear, no violation at that time of the bidding.
At the time of the bidding, Mr. Chair, for
And-
sure we entered into a CA with them, a concession agreement, and
And it
they
was
passed the-
NGCP who proclaimed the winning bidder plus the Chinese technical partner.
as the technical partner.
Correct.
Mr. Chair, yes.
Thank you. No?
Mr. Chair.
DOE.
Sir, I just wanted to,
Yes, please.
if you allow, Mr. Chair.
Please.
There are 2 important documents. Now, there's the concession agreement, which was signed prior to the franchise, which was signed on kailan ba to? 2008.
2008.
February 2008. So that's the concession agreement, which is basically, in simple terms, subcontractor siya ng Transco. And there's provisions there on what they're supposed to deliver. It doesn't say that you cannot deliver once you have right-of-way issues. It just says what are your obligations. Now, following that, I think around the same year, Congress granted NGCP a franchise. Why was that very important? Because the franchise is a requirement in the concession agreement. But under the franchise, under the concession agreement, the issue basically there, even though let's say there are violations, it is bound for arbitration kung may issue ang mga parties. You can't go to ERC or to the courts, or kailangan unahin mo muna mag-arbit sila. Kaya that's why the parties here, NGCP, PISAM, and Transco, they're still under arbitration on some issues pa. So you cannot go, you cannot subject them to legal proceeding kung hindi mo ma-exhaust yung option na yan. Now, when you go to the franchise, that's the power of Congress. A power of Congress, but also bound for the regulatory powers of ERC and DOE as a policymaker. Pero Mr. Chair, if there are violations under the franchise, it depends on what the issue is. Kasi for example, if you were talking about foreign ownership, it is required to be 60-40. whether it was 60-40, it should have been 60-40 upon the concession agreement and the franchise, and up to today, and all the years in between that. So what are the laws that could be violated? There's Public Service Act, there's Foreign Investments Act na it's stated in the Foreign Investments Act. There's a constitution also. So marami pong pwedeng
No,
batas.
Yusek Sharon, I'm just asking the bidding process at that time.
Correct.
Yeah.
But what are the
Not
violations?
after. Not after. Yeah. I'll go through it. I'll go through it.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chair.
You. Thank you. My second issue is who is the body and tasked to regulate the operations of NGCP? Any of the...
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
ERC?
Mr. Chair, ERC is the regulator. We do not regulate their operations to the extent that we run their business for them. But we do conduct, in a way, oversight, because if they want to spend for operations, they need to apply for approval with ERC. If they want to construct a new project, they need to apply for ERC. But I'm not sure if that's what the question meant.
No, I'm just trying to clarify matters. So it's actually ERC, not Transco, who is their regulator. Okay, very
Tama
clear.
po.
No? So in doing that, who approved the Philippine Grid Code and the Transmission Development Plan of 2020 to 2024?
ERC reply.
Thank you po. The grid code is an issuance of the ERC. The TDP is approved po by the DOE.
So in doing that, so ERC is mandated or has the mandate to approve TDP and the Philippine Grid Code, no?
Not the TDP, Mr. Chair. TDP po kay DOE po yun.
Can you explain, Ma'am Sharon, about the TDP?
The TDP is the Transmission Development Plan. Yun yung piniprepare ng NGCP, saying that which projects will be completed at a certain target date, no? And then they plan it out. I think it's, for example, now TDP 2024 to 2040. So it's a span of long period. Ang process niyan, marami lang nangyari kasi previous to this administration. No? But ang process ideally would be prepared by NGCP in coordination with Transco, submitted to DOE for approval. Yun po yun, Mr. Chair.
Is it safe to say that NGCP's operation now is based on those TDPs as the Bible for their operations?
There's the TDP and then there's the grid code also, Mr.
The
Chair.
Power Grid Code.
Ah.
So kung yan ang mga basis natin, so ito yung report card. No? So together with Transco now, ito ngayon ang magiging basis kung ano ang grado ng NGCP for its performance. But can you really use a year-to-year basis as their grade? Because ang daming problema, right of way. No? NGCP, may I ask what are the various problems you have in terms of implementing this TDP?
Mr. Chair, may I just manifest something? Our report cards, strictly speaking, are the metrics that are approved by the ERC. This includes frequency of outages for the line length, etc. But going to your main question, Mr. Chair, what are the most common causes of delay in transmission project implementation? 3, that would be right-of-way, procurement, permitting, procuring our permits to build, and last is regulatory approvals, because we are technically not allowed to pursue projects without ERC approval on a per-project basis and on the regulatory period final determination.
Siguro NGCP, my question is are you okay that 1 year-on-year review or evaluation of your 20-year program should be evaluated?
I think, Mr. Chair, it would be a myopic view to consider the TDP as the primary report card or grading basis against which our performance is based, because that purely, number one, focuses on the construction aspect. But NGCP is the transmission service operator and the grid operator, and our services and what we do encompasses a lot more services than just the construction. This includes our system operations, of course, and of course, most importantly, managing the flow of electricity. So there are many ways we can manage the flow of electricity, and constructing new projects is just one of them. So there, as long as the metrics that ERC has established for us to follow, there are 14 metrics, I think, that was established in 2013. As long as those metrics are assessed, then you have a complete picture of how NGCP has really managed the transmission system, especially in ensuring that the electricity required by the different consumers are transmitted from the generators.
So I'll ask you a more serious question. Have you violated any of this TDP or the grid code of the Philippines?
For it's difficult to say whether there are no violations, but certainly we conduct our business with the end game of not violating anything, which is why we comply with all the orders of the ERC. We are open to all audits and inspections that are within the confines of our concession agreement and our franchise. And we have always conducted our business with the required transparency of a public utility.
So, in that case, who should evaluate yung report card nyo?
Mr. Chair, I think it is very clear in the EPIRA that the ERC is the sole regulator of the transmission business.
Lastly, ERC, do you give or evaluate their catch-up plans? No? Let's say, for example, they're nahuli sila ng 30%, 50% of their TDPs. What does ERC do?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And yeah, ma'am, sorry, a follow-up question. Is that a violation already of its franchise?
Mr. Chair, to answer the second question
Yung first muna.
Ay,
sige.
po, yung second
Okay.
mas madali po eh. Kasi yung violation po ng franchise, we defer to Congress as the body that had issued that franchise to determine whether there has been a violation of that franchise. But from our end, there were violations that we have found NGCP committed, and in fact, in at least 2 instances, we have imposed penalties, and they have paid naman po the penalties. One is their failure to comply with DOE regulations on ancillary services contracting. Second, the set of delays, binuo ko na lang po, the delayed projects. There were 37 projects that we investigated. And to explain po kanina, hindi na po ito pending case. Na-resolve na po namin to. We penalized them already. They were absolved of penalties for 2 of the 37. And we have painstakingly gone through each and every reason that was propounded by NGCP for each of those projects, for the delays for each of those projects, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am. Lastly, do you give them remedies or a catch-up plan for their delays?
Okay. Mr. Chair, dun po kasi sa, hindi ko po alam kung ano pong ibig sabihin ng catch-up plan, but the TDP which they submit to, the TPSR and the TDP which they submit to DOE, gumagalaw po yung deadlines po nila. So I don't know if that's the catch-up plan. But from our end, we reckon their delay based on our approval. Hindi na nga po namin nire-recon dun sa unang pinramis nilang yung period, construction period, dun po namin binabase. Kasi nga po, we recognize also, and this is, I think someone mentioned, not owning up to delays. We are owning up to our own delays. That's why we reckon it from the approvals of NGCP's projects.
On those things, what percentage of those delays are caused by ERC?
1 more minute.
Caused by the delay of
The delay in yung promulgate.
meron mga projects po na ganon. For example, there were, I think, at least 2 that I can recall that TROs were issued by courts because the courts were saying, wala ka pang ERC approval, bakit ka nag-expropriate? So there were those. But yung percentage, Mr. Chair, we don't have it now. We can analyze
O ma'am,
po.
yung ano na lang, yung buong
General.
general, ilan ba ang pending sa inyong cases?
From NGCP alone,
No,
Mr.
ERC
Chair?
alone.
Ang pending po namin ay more than 3,000 cases po. Not just NGCP, but the entire industry po yun.
And it takes how many months for you to resolve a particular case?
It depends. It would depend, Mr. Chair. Consumer complaints are easier to dispose of. For projects that are, for cases that are covered by EVOS, we are given only 270 days to resolve for quasi-judicial cases. For those that are under permit, 60 days lang po ang binibigay sa amin. So iba-iba pong period.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Things have been clarified on my part. I floor.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Mikey Romero, and thank you for coming to in today's hearing. You are truly missed. Okay. The chair now will recognize the Honorable Rufus Rodriguez. Silence is requested.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon to our distinguished colleagues, and likewise to our valued resource persons. I have just 4 points after hearing all the discussions. 2 would pertain to the Constitution. 1 is the quasi-judicial process of the ERC. And 3rd and 4th, about some speculations. Let me start with the lower controversy. It has been, reported by the graphs and also from the reports from IMOP and also from Transco, that because of the delay of the projects, our consumers are deprived of a lower cost of electricity. That has been pervasive in this discussion. That is speculative, Mr. Chairman, because there were delays, but there were reasons for the delays. And in fact, the DOE with our colleague has stated that indeed we cannot just directly attribute all the delays to NGCP because there are, like as I've stated in the previous hearing, the Mindanao Visayas interconnection, problems of a golf course, TRO in the Supreme Court, problems of the right of way in Lanao. So therefore, it's speculative that if the projects were already implemented, then it will result to a lower consumer payment of electricity. So that's the first one. The second one is about the ERC. Have you already issued a decision promulgated on the regulatory reset of NGCP?
Not yet, Mr. Chair.
Not yet. And yet we have here drafts of your decision. And I saw it, there are already signatures. And you publish that? My goodness, it is my first time as a practicing lawyer for 45 years that a quasi-judicial body will be publishing a decision, a draft decision, because precisely you are the ultimate decision maker and you are the regulatory agency. I cannot see any judge publishing what will be his decision and getting comments. It is not that that is that the procedure that should not be adopted? You collegially decide and then come out. After all, there are parties. The applicant is NGCP. There are intervenors. So maybe know your answer.
Mr. Chair.
The, yeah,
Those were, the publication were part of the rules, and in fact, those rules were also subjected to public comments, and there were no oppositions to those steps. And Mr. Chair, just to clarify, this is not unique to NGCP. This is part of the the rule-making process for regulated entities.
You know, I think you have to revisit your rules. Look at it now. It's being used. And practically, you'll be influenced when people will be knowing what you're going to decide on and then be able to influence you. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we are open to influence by the public because that is the part of the process, Mr. Chair.
But other influences will not be from the public, but vested interests, Mr. Dimalanta. You see, there are some vested interests who are interested, in fact, in the NGCP franchise. So therefore, you know, if you are a judicial body, you're just like a judicial body, and you should be able, you should not be announcing everything first before your final decision, because after the final decision, there can be the motion for reconsideration. So that is my take as far as your rules of procedure are concerned. Next, Mr. Chairman. We
please
go
proceed.
now. So first, we have already, in the last hearing, it was clearly established NGCP have paid all the taxes. It has paid all the taxes. BIR states so, ERC states so. Second, the NGCP has complied with for the franchise section on public ownership. They listed a company which has 30% ownership there, corporation already listed. So the second issue, clearly, the NGCP has rightly and fulfilled their obligations in the Section 8 and then Section 7 on taxes. Third, cross-ownership. Clearly, ERC Chairperson Mona said that, you know, the prohibition against cross-ownership had already been amended by the franchise of NGCP. Now I go to new issues. Now, the next issue is, already in the last hearing, the SEC has already come out with an opinion that chairmen who are foreigners, like in this case, a Chinese is a chairman, has no violation of the constitutional provision under Article 15 that it says there that executive and managerial positions are reserved to Filipinos. Clearly, the chairmanship is not a violation if you have a Chinese or any other foreign individual. Now, what's being brought here is that the chief technical officer. Question to SEC. Are technical officers executive or managerial positions violating the Constitution of the Republic of the Philippines?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. As to the duties of the Chief Technical Officer, it would largely depend on what is written in the bylaws of NGCP.
NGCP, did you not examine that and then you had a big decision? And you have certified that there's no violation?
We have no certification that NGCP has not violated any constitutional provision. If I have to manifest that. What I have stated in the last hearing is based on an opinion by the SEC that was issued before, stating that chairman of the board may be a foreign national, but it has to be qualified that his duties will be limited to that of a presiding officer in board meetings.
That's correct. NGCP, okay. Oh, you have secured all the approvals of this chief technical officer. Can you tell us which agencies has approved and has now no objection to your appointment of a chief technical officer who is a Chinese?
Mr. Chairman. The chief technical, well, all our technical officers at that time had to go through a gamut of applications for work permits and visas, work visas. We first go to the DOE to get their endorsement, and they will endorse the application to the DOJ, and the DOJ will cascade that application to the
To get
BID.
that endorsement from DOE.
And then the BID, after yes, yes, yes.
Yes,
But-
yes, for the record. The DOE endorsed your application, endorsed that position to be held by a Chinese, and then you can now go to the Department of Justice and the Bureau of Immigration, which I headed during the time of President Estrada.
Yes, yes, Mr. Chairman. That's the procedure. And then they evaluate the functions that the technical personnel will be performing, and if they are indeed technical in nature, they will issue the permit for the technical personnel.
And were they issued permits from the Bureau of Immigration and the Department of Justice?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
For nobody has questioned these decisions of the agencies that are really looking into whether a position holder violates the Constitution or not. There was now no adverse decision of all the agencies of the government.
Not that we recall, Mr. Chairman.
Was there, because you supervise corporations, was there a complaint of any person against the chief technical officer holding this position that it violates the law?
As of this moment, Mr. Chair, there is no filed complaint regarding that matter, Mr. Chair.
And so therefore, once again, I'm saying that there is no violation at all. And so, chairman can be a foreigner, chief technical officer can be a foreigner. Now, it's clear. Now, let's go to the most basic, the most important constitutional, what pervades the Constitution, and that is national security, Mr. Chairman. It is not mentioned in the Constitution, but in every section, every article of the Constitution, always national security. What is there is national territory, national development, and all of this. So then we go now to the issue of the Chinese with the NGCP. Okay. So now, you stated, Attorney Sagayo, that indeed you have a memorandum of agreement between you and NICA, correct? And NICA, Mr. Chairman, is the primary intelligence gathering and analysis of arm of the Philippine government carrying out three functions: overt, covert, clandestine intelligence operations. So we have to find out on this issue of national security, which is brought about during the last hearing and then now, that the Chinese are there, and therefore there is this is a question of national security because the Chinese interferes with the NGCP, interferes in its operations, its decision making. And therefore, if they are there, it therefore creates a problem on national security, and which all of us Filipinos will be against if there is any foreign power that will therefore make, decide on the fate of Filipinos. We will know now whether this particular, has the NICA found any violation of NGCP in relations to these Chinese being there as technical or as board directors?
Before you answer, you're 5 minutes up, but we will give you an extension because you're also a senior citizen.
Yes, I invoke
Okay,
that
for
because
two.
otherwise
Okay.
there will be no equal
Okay.
protection of the laws.
Okay.
If
All
you are
right,
going to
proceed.
give
We will extend.
Congressman Marcoleta and not me. Thank you for the
Okay,
3 minutes.
thank you.
Otherwise, you violate the Constitution.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, please.
Please, Attorney.
No finding of any violation by
And-
NICA. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And since when did you have this memorandum allowing NICA to really go into the operations, go into the your distribution system, and the influence of the Chinese in the NGCP? When did you have that NICA agreement?
Mr. Chairman,
Please.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Prior
Okay.
to this administration, we had been allowing NICA, ISAF to inspect our facilities. During this administration of President Marcos, we entered into a memorandum of agreement with NICA. And also during this administration, we allowed them, Mr. Chairman, to hold office in NGCP. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So you're saying
Proceed.
that NICA, Mr. Chairman, can I proceed? You're saying that the NICA is holding office right there in your premises.
That's what I said, Mr. Chairman.
Wow. And
Thank you.
also, you mentioned about the ISAP. Do you have also agreements with the armed forces of the Republic of the Philippines?
Mr. Chairman, with respect to the armed forces of the Philippines, we have agreements in the local level with respect to the protection of our facilities. And we also have an agreement with the armed forces of the Philippines with respect to reservists. We have reservists who are employees of NGCP who committed themselves to protect the transmission facilities. And Attorney Samboy here is a lieutenant colonel of the reserve forces of the armed forces of the Philippines. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So in all the operations from the time you started in 2008 up to now, has there been any derogatory report and you have been asked by the NICA, the armed forces, and all the intelligence bodies here that you have to be, there are violations in terms of possibility. We're talking about possibilities. Possibility of interference by these Chinese who are always intruding illegally in our West Philippine Sea, and which the Chinese has lost all 8 points in the international arbitral tribunal in Den Haag. Was there any to alert you? Because the NICA is the primary intelligence gathering and analysis of our country. Was there anything from the time you operated up to now that NICA has called your attention to violations?
Mr. Chairman, there's none. We haven't received any notice from NICA, from ISAF, that we are violating security measures and laws. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And my final question is to the President, President Anthony Almeida. You're under oath. Where is Anthony?
Mr. Almeida, please take your respective seat. I
Do
think
you-
he went to the restroom.
Yeah.
Oh,
Do you
there.
assure this august committee on franchise, with our distinguished members here present and the valued resource persons, can you state you're under oath that there is no possibility of interference from the Chinese in our operation, especially in the supply of electricity in this country, which was also stated by the chairman, no less than Henry C. Sr., that there is no possibility at all, and everything is fake news, that the Chinese can interfere and can black out the entire country. Can you say that categorically, unequivocally?
Mr. Almeida, you're under oath.
Yes, Mrs. Chair. Yes, there is no possibility that, that as far as I'm concerned, as a Filipino citizen and as a reserve also of the armed forces, I categorically say that there's no possibility, Mr. Chair, that the Chinese can, yeah.
Thank you. And with that, Mr. Chairman, it is clear that the NGCP has not violated any constitutional provision, and even the principles underlying the Constitution. Number
Thank
two, Mr. Chairman, it has clearly it has clearly followed all the provisions of its franchise. Third, all that they have done has been approved by the ERC. The pass-on of the franchise tax and all the cross ownership and also the public offering. So, Mr. Chairman, I do not see how we can continue with this hearing when there are no violations. Mr. Chairman, that is my question.
Thank you.
Would you again want to go delve on that when clearly the constitutional issues, the franchise issues, the speculations, Mr. Chairman, I think we should already adjourn and let's go to face what are the important bills of our country, like my intelligence bills, my anti-espionage bills,
Thank you
because
very
that
much.
will increase the penalties of spies.
Thank
in
you
this
very
country.
much, the
Thank you.
Honorable Rufus Rodriguez.
Mr. Chair.
Like I said, this is an inquiry and not because there is a franchise violation, because that is for the committee to make, Congressman Rufus, and not solely within your authority. Okay? That is a collective
Mr. Chair.
decision. So hindi nyo kayang desisyonan ho kung may
Kailangan.
franchise violation. But again, we're looking at how to bring down the prices of electricity, and we will continue to do so until we're able to achieve that goal. Now,
Mr. Chair. Ay,
the USEC Janet Garin is
Sharon, sir.
recognized.
Sharon.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The better Garin. Okay. Okay. The USEC Sharon Garin is recognized.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to clarify lang, ang records ng DOE on the approvals of the, ano yan, yung mga magtatrabaho na foreigners, we have from 2018 to 2024, there are directors, senior technical advisor, but we don't have the record of the individual that you are looking for. But maybe if there's such a claim, because that's way back for us, baka pwedeng i-provide lang ng NGCP kung that's the claim, Mr. Chair. Because we don't have it in DOE, Mr. Chair.
Much. Attorney Matibag.
Mr. Chair, gusto ko lang pong ilatag sa committee, the last hearing that we have in the Senate, chaired before by the chairman of Energy and Senate, Senator Win Gatchalian, kasi pina-under oath kanina si President Almeda na hindi possible, na may attacks, gano'n. I think if we will review the transcript of that hearing, he admitted that
Mr. Chairman,
NGCP
point of order. Can a fellow resource person ask or
I'm not asking
comment on the question? Can he cross-examine a fellow?
No. He is not, Honorable Mikey, he is not because I acknowledge him and for him to state his opinion. May I know what happened to that hearing?
Well,
I was
I'm just
about to ask
trying
that question.
give something kung ayaw niyong marinig ng...
Yes, go ahead,
I will not
please.
speak.
Please. Ano yun?
Nag-hearing kasi noon, chaired by... That was the last hearing that we had. That was...
Ano sabi ni, anong sinabi?
Sinabi niya na...
Point of order,
every day-
Mr. Chairman. Ayun, Melvin.
Attorney
Eh,
Matibag, pwede ba tapusin na ho
Di ba po,
natin?
Mr. Chair, we are here to find the truth.
Yes, correct.
I'm
Go
here
ahead.
as a citizen also.
Okay. Proceed. Please proceed.
I'm not for China, I'm for Philippines.
Okay, go ahead.
Witch
Okay.
hunting here.
So what was
I
said?
don't want to witch hunt
So
here.
for
We are
the,
not with
One
something.
specific company.
I'm stating a fact. You review the Senate
The facts are very clear. I tell you,
Order.
whatever is stated in the Senate is not here. It's what is stated here.
He
yes.
was
Okay.
under oath when he made that statement.
Correct.
We are now in Congress, in the House of Representatives.
Okay,
Yes.
Mr. Chair, if you
Yes.
don't want to hear me,
Again,
I will keep quiet.
like I said, I'm asking you to continue. What was said? Quiet, please.
He stated that NGCP is suffering an attack every day.
Okay.
And
Mr.
just to
Chair,
From
may I
where?
be recognized?
From where?
Kung saan-saan. Maraming, yung cyber attack.
Okay. So yun ang issue.
Yun yung sinasabi ko kasi based doon sa sinasabi, under oath, wala, hindi pwede.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Okay,
may I be
thank you very
recognized?
much. Attorney, sundin lang po ha. I will acknowledge you. Relax ka lang. Okay? So I will, Attorney Matibag, are you done? Have you said your piece?
Okay na po
Let
kasi
it be
baka
said,
magalit po yung mga abogado.
Hindi. Okay. Abogado ka rin naman eh. Okay. So, pare-pareho kayo abogado. Yun ang mahirap pag maraming abogado.